Welcome to Merging Finances. I am Chanel Outlaw, a licensed realtor in DC and Maryland and Virginia. Um, DC and Maryland. And I also have my master's in social work as well.
I am a Estado Outlaw. I have over 13 years of financial experience working as a financial management specialist. I have a bachelor's of science degree in banking and finance with maybe 6 credits shy of a minor in accounting.
Yes. So we are, if you all are first time tuning in, welcome to Merging Finances. This is here. We've created a show not only to help build generational wealth, but to really focus in on having open, healthy conversations about finances, especially as it relates to within your marriage or if individuals are dating, courting. So that's courting to be married, or just single, because the overall goal is understanding your finances and what is your relationship with money. That is one of the biggest things. And most of the time, when we talk or even have discussion about finances, sometimes it's not thoroughly discussed in a way, or some individuals don't feel as comfortable to have those open, candid conversation about finances. So here we've created a wonderful platform that you'll be able to come on, share your thoughts, or even give out show topics as well to Merging Finances, so that we be able to have those healthy conversations open and honestly. And what we also are going to do as well is have featured guests come on. So those guests that have those expertise when it comes down to credit, student loan, retirement, investment, business credit. We're going to have those guests come on as well, because you have to know and have that understanding of what your relationship is. If you all missed our last show was called "What is Your Money Language?"
hmm
That was really good in regards to, if you want to go over a couple of the points that we made in the last show.
Yes. Go ahead.
So, a couple points we made in the last show is what is a driver? So, a driver is someone who equates money to success. So, there are four different money language. The first ones is driver. What is a driver? A driver is someone who equates money to success. The second one is
The second one is an amiable. So their money means love and affection. So they typically express their love by buying gifts for other people.
all right, and the third one is someone who's analytic. And an analytic, they view money as protection and security. They're the ones who are, you want to say, very meticulous as it comes down to their finances. They know where every penny, dime, dollar goes. And lastly,
The last one is the expressive. The expressive views money as acceptance. Their confidence pretty much depends upon how much money they have or lack thereof.
so today's show topic, we are going to talk about how much can your spouse spend without your permission.
hmm Should be
that's
juicy.
that is definitely a good topic for us, because we wanted to, um, not only with us, but we've had several different conversations with other couples,
hmm
and that question always not catches them off guard, but it gives them time to really think about, like, well, how much can I really spend without calling my spouse, my significant other, or how much can they spend without calling me?
hmm
So that here we're going to talk about some of the our topics of today and our tips today in regards to just giving you all those helpful tips you all will need when it comes down to understanding and having that open. Once again, this is having those open, healthy conversation about finances. So here we're going to give you all some different tips to have that conversation in regards to how much should you spend, and how much should you tell your partner that they can spend, if it's like that. We all know in regards to about submission, boundaries, and permission. So we
hmm
know permission means more of consent.
Yeah.
um, Boundaries, what is your boundary, not only individually but each other. That's also a good thing to also take away. And the submission part, that's always a topic for discussion. But understanding the submission, not only when it comes down to a wife submitting to her husband, but each other. And what does that look like as you all move forward, especially in the area of your finances?
And be mindful that the definitions or terms of what it looks like for every couple, every person is different. So of course you can go by Webster and look up the definition of submission, boundaries, and permission, but at the same time, you got to identify what resonates with you and your partner. So take the time to identify what it looks like for you and yours.
Yes. So what I've really, I guess I've really never thought about it too much in regards to uh, what dollar amount he should call me for when he's spending. I've always, I think maybe because we talk all throughout the day and we communicate. If he goes to like Chick-fil-A or something like that, it is assumed that this meal, even if it's for himself or for the family, it's going to cost around, let's say, $20-$30. Now Chick-fil-A has gone up, but if it's anything for himself, he typically says like, hey, I'm gonna head off to Target. Well, this one time he did go to Target, and he called me while he was in Target and asked, hey, is there anything you want? And I was like, no, there's nothing I want. Then he comes home and he says, I spent like $200 in Target. I was like, so what did you get? And I looked at the items. I'm like, you spent $200? She was like, yeah, well, I picked up this. I was like, we could have went to the grocery store. We could have went somewhere else and got those items cheaper. That was my thinking. But I mean, at the time I said, well, he knows I'm probably not going to take it back, and he's definitely not going to take it back. So, so we just had to stick with the items with that. So that's more of how I definitely feel in regards to just.
So what's the answer to the question?
The answer to the question is, give me a call, a courtesy call, like just saying, hey, I'm heading to, the mall, or this one time you said you wanted some brand new running shoes. You're like, hey, I'm going, way out to Virginia to get these running shoes. I'm like, okay. He's like, well, my price range is between, you said $80 to like $100. I'm like, oh, okay. So, I guess how much your running shoes were.
It was $80 to $200.
Yeah, okay, I had the extra 100. So I'm like, okay. So it was fine with me because he already communicated. So it wasn't so much a dollar amount, but I can tell you this one time, I told him a story how I would feel is I used to work at a Porsche dealership, not Porsche, Porsche dealership. And I was talking to a client at the time, and he was saying he was so excited because he had a custom order and the car was delivered. And he said, kind of jokingly, but it was more serious, oh, I can't wait till I pull up at home because my wife has no idea that she has no idea that I actually purchased this car. So, and I was just like, oh, okay. And I wasn't married at the time, so I didn't know. So he was like, oh, she has no idea that I purchased this car, but I'm pretty sure she will use the credit card and purchase whatever she likes. So I said, okay, well, I guess if that works in you all's marriage, then that works. Hey, I just said, hey, well, you have a nice day. And he just smiled walking out the dealership. That was just, I'm saying, wow, this car costs, over $100,000. And I mean, she has no idea, but I guess if that works, that works. I mean, that was their, I guess, overall threshold.
So just for clarity,
okay.
Are you saying like Usher says there's no limit?
No, no. I'm saying that, for me, there isn't a limit as long as you communicate. Like, don't go out here and you go to the dealership and you just purchase this car. And now we should be talking about why you took on the personal liability and you didn't, invest it into like a business car. So that's another story. That's another show for another day as well. But for me, I'm like, well, yeah, no, you don't have to really call, but communicate, have a conversation beforehand, not after the fact. I'll feel more offended after the fact than you having a conversation beforehand.
Okay.
So what about you? How much?
How much? It depends.
Depends. That's like dun dun dun.
And I wrote down my notes today, so I don't miss a single talking point.
Singleton. You got it. Okay.
So it depends on a few things. I identify as my money language is the analytic, and my wife's money language is the amiable. So you have to be mindful of the responses that both of us give as it relates to the descriptiveness of those money languages that we talked about in the previous show.
Mm-hmm.
So as I answer this question, I will get to the point of answering the question, but I have to give a disclaimer first. I have to give an explanation first. So
very analytical of you.
So how much money can my wife spend without my permission? It depends. And it depends on quite a few factors. So one of the first factors is it a need or a want? These I'm about to give you guys a cycle of questions that I go through in my mind, and sometimes I share them with her before we make a decision on whether to purchase something or not. So I'm going to ask the question: is it a need or a want? All right. And a lot of people can define on their own what a need is for their own needs and what a want is. And I'll get more into what ours are later. But the second thing would be, what are we working toward? What goals are we working toward? Are we working to pay off credit card debt? Are we working on a savings account, for college or emergencies or retirement or whatever it may be? Are we trying to build business credit? Are we trying to build up the capital for an investment venture? So what goals are we working toward? The next cycle of questions I would go through in my mind is, what season of the year is it? And that's a twofold question. So what season of the year is it, meaning spiritually? What season of the year are we in our marriage, or, for the single people while you're courting and dating, what season of the year are you in with your partner, with your significant other? For us, it's what season are you in spiritually? What's the book
by
Elder Cunningham, the Cunninghams?
Oh yes.
Are doing.
So in our church, we are taking like marriage enrichment class, and one of the books that was given to us was by David Chapman,
Mm-hmm.
The Seasons of Marriage.
Yeah, 4 seasons.
The 4 seasons of marriage. So you all probably know Dave Chapman by his book, Your Love Languages.
Mm-hmm.
But he also wrote a book about really informative book, and it's very interactive. I will say that it's a very interactive book. They actually in the back of the book have different questions, and they give you different tips as well to help spark, like we're doing here, help spark those conversations so that it can be open, it can be transparent, and it can be very healthy for you all to move forward in whatever season you all are in.
But in that book, it identifies 4 different seasons and relates them to the love of, I guess, the intimacy in your relationship. So if you're in a season of winter, of course, it's cold, it's bitter, it's frigid, it's probably not much communication and intimacy going on. If you're in the season of summer, it's probably healthy, it's strong, it's vibrant.
You're living your best life.
Yeah,
okay?
You're going on vacations, y'all enjoying one another. And in those in-between seasons like fall and spring, it's gearing up, for the season that follows. So in the spring, it's hopeful, it's anticipating, it's something to look forward to. Not quite out of the winter season yet, but it's the horizon is you can see the horizon. Things are looking good. The outcome is going to be great. And then in the fall season, things are starting to take a turn for the worse, possibly. Um, and yeah, so you got to look. I look at it. Startle looks at it from the perspective of what season are you in spiritually with your significant other, and then the other aspect of what season is it in, and I mean the calendar year. So, are there holidays coming up? Are there birthdays, graduations, summer vacations? Uh, I don't know. Whatever days you guys celebrate, holidays, celebratory events. What's going on the calendar that might be competing with our finances.
That's really big. That's really big as well.
Mhm.
Especially when you get married, for those individuals who are courting. At first, when you guys get engaged, you're going and attending every family friend function. Every single one you get invited to, you got to go. But as time goes on, you will have to learn how to communicate and be able to say, can we attend this function? If we can, it's really not that we don't want to attend, it's more of, especially if something's out of town, or especially when it comes to a birthday celebration,
Family reunions,
family reunion,
graduations,
graduation,
recitals.
all that stuff requires money. So if it's not in your time, it's the distance, how much that is going to cost. And then, of course, if you're going to give a gift, can you afford to give? Can you afford to go? And so sometimes we had to make very hard decisions where, look, we can't go this time. It looks fun, and we're watching and living, vicariously through everybody else on social media and phone calls and hearing. But at the end, it's like, if we would have went, where are we going to go without in that next place?
Opportunity cost. What are we foregoing? What are we sacrificing just for this moment of
Bliss
incorporation or
and
acceptance or fun,
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call it? While we're on the topic of time, so the second part of that point would be, give me 1 second, catch my thought. What day of the month is it? So if it's the beginning of the month, the primary expenses coming out. The major expenses come out on the first of the month. So it's probably not a good time, to schedule, trips and things of that nature, or major expenses, because you're competing with the expenses for the mortgage or the car note or something of that nature. Just major expenses. And then on the 15th, you have the other smaller expenses, but they're still cumulative. So one of the questions I would ask is, what time of the month is it? And then the fourth question, which has two parts, is, what source of payment will you be making the purchase? What source of payment will you be using? So what I mean by that is, are you using a primary checking, savings? I'm referring to my notes. A business account, or OPM, which stands for other people's money, or you're going to use a personal loan or third-party investors, or is someone going to be treating you? So when I say what source of payment will you be using, that's what I mean. And the second part of that question is, what form of payment will you be using? What's the payment method? Will you be using a gift card, a cashback rewards card, or a loyalty membership points system, or what is the method of payment you're going to be using? Are you going to be using cash? So all this goes into my thought process before I even get to answer the question, how much money can my wife spend without my permission?
So he has gone through 4 questions.
I went through 4 categories of questions.
4 categories of questions that his thoughts have to go through. All he heard was, can I spend? And then the thought process.
Then I heard in my mind, is this a need or a want? Are we working toward a specific goal? What season of the year are we in? That's 2 parts. What day of the month is it? Because it can't be too close to any of those other expenses. And what source of payment will you be using? What method of payment will you be using? So all this triggered in my head when I heard the question.
all he heard is ching, 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 ching. So that's what
Right,
I heard.
right.
It is all those questions. But then he comes back and he asks me, actually, what are those questions? Like, I'm like,
So
like,
the rationale behind all of those questions that triggered instantly in my mind is, after we have covered all of our primary expenses, our core expenses, our basic essential needs, um, for the comfortability of our lifestyle. After all those expenses are covered, what are you spending the disposable income on, and why? And I just think it just requires. I think it deserves, not requires. I think it deserves a conversation. I think it's only fair, it's only right, because this is a shared pot of money.
the community money,
It's the
as he
community
said.
money. So
the community. I'm like, oh, community money. Okay. And it's not so to say it as in joking, but it's saying as in you all are together, you all are merging that finances. So what you all are bringing into the household should be taken under consideration with just to deserve a conversation. For me, there isn't a limit. It's what I feel like I deserve is a conversation.
mhm.
If you can just communicate and said, oh, I spent, 200 in Target. Uh, Big ups to Eric with his comment, 200 in Target. Uh, yeah, just call me and say, yeah, I spent 200 in Target. Me, I'm thinking about the items that you actually purchased for $200. For him, it's more actually the actual price point of the purchase. So
So hold on. Those, let me. I don't want to get it confused. So those core living expenses, of course, you got your mortgage, your car note, your student loans, personal loans, gas, utilities, cell phone, Wi-Fi, credit card, and various. I'm looking down because I don't want to miss my point. You keep tapping me to make sure I'm looking in the camera. But you got your various insurances. So those are the primary expenses for the whole month. And once those expenses, this cost for those expenses have been covered, now we can put our money to the side or allocate it to disposable income and having fun and all those other things. So I just wanted to make that clear. And then you also have other things that come up like parking, paying for parking. We live close to DC. So anytime you go to DC, you got to pay for parking,
I try to find
either on the street or in the garage. You got to pay for tolls if you get close to Virginia, depending on what way you go. You have child support, you have daycare, after school, like extracurricular activities, and so on and so forth. So my mind immediately calculates, have we covered our costs for the expenses for the whole month? And then we can start talking about having fun and how much money we're going to spend on it.
And I think too is also to have a good discussion in regards to knowing when your bills actually come out. If you're kind of spread out throughout the calendar, like if your mortgage comes out on the 1st, and then you got your car note on the 15th, then on the 28th, you got something else. It's kind of like, okay, well, can we group some of these together? Can we change, if we can we change the payment dates so that we know, okay, in the beginning half of the month, these items are due. And at the end half of the month, these items are due. So it just makes it a little easier for you all to kind of see exactly where everything is, allocated to.
So after I went through that whole mental process, the real question for me is not how much can my spouse spend without my permission. The real question for me is, after all of that, how much disposable income is my wife spending on wants and why? Ask me why.
Why?
Because our needs come first. And as a man, I believe as a man that not only are we to procreate and protect, but one of the most important ones is to provide. And so after the provisions have been made, everything's kind of cool and calm, and I can worry about other things. I won't, living in this day and age in the neighborhood we live in, it's not so much protecting. not physically at least, but at least with the responsibility of my handling the finances, a lot of those worries that are covered, in the, what am I saying? The category of protecting. So protect, provide, and procreate. We already covered provisions. That's why I'm going through this mental checklist. But the category of protecting my wife, some of those areas of protection that we would cover gets automatically covered when we are being responsible with our finances. That's what I'm really trying to say. So, and I just wrote down my thoughts and feelings on paper. My wife thought it was a really good, something that I should quote. Do you want to read it?
No, go ahead. I mean, he wrote down some good thought-provoking quotes and some good things. I was very excited. Definitely share with them what you have stated.
So, first of all, my thought process is like this because our needs have to be met first, and that's the provisions part. So after the provisions are taken care of, now we can have some fun. So the next reason why I think like this is our disposable income must be enough to cover the things we hope for. And that's what I wrote from my heart for real. My wife really loved it. And I'm gonna repeat it again. Our disposable income must be enough to cover the things we hope for. So what I mean by that is the categories of the categories of fun, entertainment, entrepreneurship, financial freedom, saving for college,
saving
for retirement, all of those categories will more than likely be funded from the disposable income. They're going to have to be covered from that category of money. So I am more mindful about splurging and spending on wants, because it's our resources are limited. Our wants are limitless and our resources are limited. So go ahead, babe. I'm getting wrapped up in my thoughts, but that's just part of my thought process. Like, I don't have the thought process of excessive consumerism. That's not my thing. I'm more conservative. One person called me a minimalist, but I'm just really mindful for real. So that's part of the profile of being an analytic. They are good long-term planners. So go ahead, babe.
So in all of it, it really equates to is, some individuals may have an actual dollar amount.
Mm-hmm.
For us, where we have grown to is really the communication and the trust. And a lot of people don't realize that trust is really associated with finances as well, because you are trusting and you can actually take the person out of it. Talk about yourself. Do you trust yourself enough that you are going to actually pay and do what you say you're going to do? So for example, I was telling him, like, a credit card, a credit card's instead of a charge card, but a credit card has a limit. If there wasn't a limit, everybody will have access to American Express, where there is no limit, but not everyone does have access. And it's based on, have you created a discipline for yourself to say, I'm going to spend what I'm going to spend and I'm going to pay it off. And then on top of that, they are trusting you. The credit card company is trusting you to say, hey, we give you this limit that if you charge it all up, we know and trust in the fact that you're going to pay this off. If not, the ramifications of you not making this payment on time or even paying it completely off, it affects your credit score, which ultimately means when it comes down to those basic needs, when it comes down to home ownership, it's one of the first things they ask you and is, what is your credit score? When it comes down to getting a car, when it comes down to just other basic needs, it comes down to that. So go ahead.
Yeah, I can chime in now.
Oh, okay.
But the other side of the coin of being able to finance the things you hope for is being able to fight off and ward against the things that you don't want to happen, the unthinkable, the unexpected. So an emergency might occur, health scares, auto damage. You might need repairs to your automobile, or I don't know, you might get tickets. Those are unexpected expenses that's unknown.
He's trying to go back to the tickets that I got.
Or for example, like with the pandemic, a lot of people got laid off, or the companies downsized, or you got furloughed. So kind of being a little bit conservative helps for those things that's unexpected and the unthinkable. What about an untimely death? We just experienced that in our community, and I can't say with confidence that those family members had the money to bury that person, that loved one.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
that's very true.
A lot of things, some of those expenses wouldn't have to catch you off guard if you just kind of save and conserve a little bit. So,
and you always say it's easy to say save up for 6 months. It's ideal. It is very ideal. But we all know it's a plethora of individuals who do live paycheck to paycheck, or so here we're saying, let's give you those tips, let's give you those helpful hints, so that as you go on through life and as you go on through your journey by yourself or with your significant other, you'll have those healthy conversation. Like he said, he has that thought process to really ask himself, okay, these 4 categories of questions, if I want to go do something, or she wants to go spend something, are these areas taken care of? And if not, what is the consequences? What is the limitation? What are we going to go without?
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of times we have a tendency to kind of spend and then think about it.
Yeah.
Versus when we want to train our mind to think before we spend.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one that we really want. And here, go ahead.
Yeah, and to get back to the question, I do have a number in mind, but I don't intend on sharing it with the audience, nor with my wife, because
I can't know. I didn't know I had a number. Okay, well, go ahead. I'm listening now.
I have experience when you give a person an inch, they're trying to take a foot. And I'm not saying that that's my wife, but I do know that if, for example, if I were to tell you my number was $500 every weekend that we could spend on whatever we wanted, fun, entertainment, spa, whatever, doesn't matter.
Pretty good. I can do a lot. With a week, I can do it. Save it up.
One, you're going to hold me to that number. And should anything come up, you're going to insist that that's still the number, regardless of what the circumstances are. Oh, you told me 500, it can't be lowered. That's going to be the standard going forward. So no, I'm not going to say $500. But if I were to say $500, hypothetically, I can see there being spending that totals $499.99 every weekend. I can see that being the reality for real. Or a bunch of smaller purchases that in cumulative they total $500 or very close to that number, so that no money is going to be left over. No, I do have an amount, but it's how much of the disposable income can we spend, because a portion of that has to go to savings, a portion of that has to go toward emergencies, a portion of that has to go toward the family vacations that we must really take at least once a year or twice a year, so. And then not to mention birthdays, so I do have an amount in mind. I'm not telling, I don't want you to hold me to it. And then I don't want you to try to hit that amount every weekend or every month, so no, I dare not. The bottom line is, for Estado, are our basic needs taken care of? Are the primary expenses, the core expenses, are those things covered well and above what we need? So afterwards, I think, yeah, sure. We're kind of getting. try not to get into too much into the tips, but I kind of would just start listing the tips at this point because it kind of plays into why I would be so lenient at this point. It's because the needs are met, the household is taken care of.
Oh, I will say that one of the good things that really also helped, we took premarital classes, and we recommend almost every couple we've came across do one as a group, so that you can actually hear other individuals, and then also do one by yourself as a couple, so that you those things that you do not want to share in a group, those intimate details, you'll be able to actually articulate that to the pastor or the person who's going to officiate your wedding, right?
Okay.
And so one of the homework assignments we had, which was really good, was what is your non-negotiables?
Mm-hmm.
And you actually have to fill out the homework assignment separately and then exchange, give the person time to read, reflect, pray, whatever they need to do, and then you all come back and have a conversation. And so he lists out his non-negotiables, I list out my non-negotiables, and they told us, our teachers told us, if something is on that paper that you do not feel comfortable with, do not try to make or compromise. Don't do that. Like, it is okay to say, I'm not comfortable with it. Have a conversation. If you feel like after the conversation and you still feel that way, it's okay to say no or walk away. We have the tendency sometimes to just kind of force some things to happen, or we don't seek the professional help needed in order to have that open, honest conversation. So one of the non-negotiables is, he said, I don't care how much money you make. He said, you cannot come home and surprise me. I'm more of a gift giver, so I'm amiable. So I express my money language through purchasing gifts. So those who know me well. I'm that friend who just buys, and that's just my heart. I don't buy because I want to receive something back. I just give because that's just who I am. So, with that being said, he wrote, that was his number one: do not buy my dream car. Don't walk into the dealership, don't try to finance it, don't find it. He said that is an accomplishment that I want on my own. He said even if you can't afford it, even if you could pay it in cash, he said I will be more upset because this is something you did for me than for me to do it for myself. And so with me bringing up that story is really have that conversation financially. What is your non-negotiable? Although this may be purchasing a car, a dream car, but really have that non-negotiable, what is acceptable within your relationship. And then go back to ask yourself. So even if it's with your significant other, your spouse, ask yourself, what is my non-negotiable? Where do I feel comfortable spending? Where can I really say no? Sometimes it's hard, identifying those items that you really can't say no to, you know?
So that's a good time to get into the tips.
Okay. So your tips is,
My first tip is to communicate what your intentions are. Like I said earlier, this is community money. Um, any spending from the both of us is going to impact both of us. It's going to impact our kids, and it's going to impact any opportunities that we may miss out on in the future. One of the ones that hurt me just a tad was not right before the pandemic, but a few months before the pandemic, we both purchased new cars.
oh yes,
Um, brand new cars,
brand new.
not used, brand new, 0 miles on it, car notes. So that took a good chunk of our disposable income out of our household. And shortly after the pandemic hit, I kicked myself in the butt so bad because that's when everything went on sale. That
Everything.
had we not financed those vehicles, we would have had more disposable income to invest in real estate, to start our own business, to buy more stocks because they were plummeting in prices. So there was a lot of opportunity cost that was missed out on because we decided to buy brand new vehicles, both of us. So that one really hurt for real. But the whole point of the matter is we both communicated what our wants were. It was a want because we didn't need new vehicles. It was a want. So just communicate your intentions, because it impacts everyone in your household and people who rely on you. You might have elderly parents or nieces and nephews that you're taking care of, or a neighbor, a good neighbor. We got some great neighbors in this community. We all look out for each other.
We do.
So there may be someone who needs you to be a blessing to them. So be responsible with your money so that you can be a lender and not a borrower. You did?
Yeah.
So communicate your intentions. And I think both my wife and I hit it on the head and said it's not necessarily the amount. I do have an amount in mind, but at the same time, it's more so what are you spending on the money on and why? So, and the why I just want to have a conversation. It's not that you can't do it. Let's get more into what's your feelings right now. What's your emotions? Is this impulsive? Are you feeling some kind of way? Are you just impulse spending? Are you feeling depressed? Are you feeling emotional? Or are you just trying to do something nice? Are you trying to express your money language? You just feel like God told you to go out and give that person $100 or go buy this family, this household a meal. So it's just, I think it just deserves a conversation because that money is ultimately what's going to fund our hopes.
And I'm smiling because that was us, and that was me in the beginning, still is. But in regards to, it was just laid on my heart, and I wanted to bless someone with a particular amount. Or now what I do, I'll if I know a family in need, I'll go out and buy groceries. I wouldn't think twice. You know what I mean? If I have it and I have to give, I'll give. And so, but then getting married, he was like, whoa, you just spent what, $50, $60 on someone else's household. I'm like, wait, and no, the way you're making it sound, it didn't
But
sound
you're taking
right.
money out of our household to, put money into their household.
And so,
and that ain't even gonna be the last purchase this week. Tomorrow you're gonna tell me XYZ need help.
Yeah.
Or you had it on your heart to go do this.
So we had to create like a really healthy boundary because you didn't want to stop.
Yeah.
He didn't want to prevent me from being who I am. But I did have to learn the limitation in the boundary. So it's not to say that I cannot help that family in need, but it's when and how I can and how much. I next time I may not have to spend 50. I can just do maybe 30, 25, it depends. It really depends. And it's having that conversation. And the key thing he said is really knowing if you have that disposable income to do it. That everything else is really taken care of. But like I said, if it's still laid on your heart to do, then you do. There shouldn't be any restriction. And I think one of the most important things is, well, give yourself and your significant other grace. Give each other grace.
You've been into the last top tip.
Oh, I'm sorry. I messed up the last tip. Okay.
The next tip is to have a budget for your needs and your wants.
Okay. Yes. Have a budget.
So go ahead.
Yeah. So have a budget for your needs and your wants. And that's a big thing. Everyone talks about, okay, what does a budget look like? To be honest with you, he is very organized. He's very meticulous. And I think it has to really do with not only the job, that he does as well, but, it's really who is organized enough and has the patience. Although someone is saying, well, the man can, take care of the finances. It is okay if the wife does it. It's the person who is better organized, that person has the better one. Okay, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z. This is going to be paid on time. I'm going to pay it beforehand. I know all the bills are going to be due. I just need this from you, X, Y, and Z. I already got it taken care of. We all have our own respected lanes. So it's not to discredit if, we've heard and seen where the woman actually takes over the finances, and it's not any, disrespect to her husband. It's just saying that was just her stronger suit, and vice versa. When it comes down finances, that's just his stronger suit. But I do like the fact that he does still have that conversation and creating and organizing a budget to say, hey, if you want to go on this vacation, we should just budget for at least 1,500. He said, if you can't, pick out a vacation that costs 1,500, that means flights and hotel and food, then maybe we can wait, or if you can make it work. But this is the budget. This is what I feel comfortable where we are in our finances to do X, Y, and Z.
And so having a budget for your needs and your wants, for me, what it looks like is, I think it's fairly easy, and that's not meant to be an attack on anyone who doesn't find it easy, who finds it difficult. I think it's fairly easy to create a budget for your needs, because most of the time those expenses are fixed. Most of the time they are installment debt, or an amount that's almost the same every single month. So I think it's easier to account for those every single month or annually. Now the wants, I think it requires more attention, because the wants are limitless, and your resources are limited because you're working from your disposable income. So, and then sometimes your wants become your needs. You want a new car, and now you have created a new expense that you need to be able to pay every month, because you got a car note, so
that's what happened to me.
I think I think it takes a little bit more work and mindfulness and discipline to say, hey, we got to get a control of what we spend our disposable income on. So I think that's where a lot of the arguments stem in relationships, and I think that's where a lot of people go wrong with their credit, and just being able to finance your dreams. Really, you got to get control of what you spend your disposable income on, and not subscribe to consumerism. So that's my tip for having a budget for your needs and your wants. And we can get more into details about how to do that. Just contact us, reach out, and we can work with you one-on-one for that. Please read the disclaimer.
Yes.
We're here to help, but
we're
you don't have to take any advice or anything that we say, really.
Yeah. So with that being said, it's really those budgeting tips. I mean, you can hear from a plethora of individuals that talk about credit, talk about business credit. One of the ways that we really wanted to set up this platform, we sat down, we talked about it, and we're really reflecting on what was really missing. Is really having and really exposing individuals to creating that budget. It's the budgeting tips. And it's not to say that you can't be an entrepreneur and have those entrepreneurial goals. It can't say that you can't, take a trip to Paris. No one's saying that you can't do that. But what I am saying is, have you really sat down and taken the time to really see? Most times I'm guilty of it. Is I have all my bills in my head. I know I have 3 bills due on the 15th, 1 due on the 28th. I just pay, and that's it. So I know, but I wasn't keeping track of everything. I wasn't keeping track. So I'm spending what I think I have instead of spending what I know I have. So then when we got married, he was like, are you sure you have that type of money? I was like, yeah, and just keep it going. He's like, no, that's you can't do it that way, because in the long run, you're not working towards anything. You're just living. You got to be able to say, okay, what is going to be the goal? So now it's like, okay, for him, going back to what he said, to contact and call in regards to is, we've created a budget, an Excel spreadsheet. And this Excel spreadsheet, he pops it in and through a flash drive, pops a flash drive in, and he actually, before we go to the grocery store, before we go out to any outing event, he tells me his keyword is, I'm checking the bills. So I know what that means. He's popping that Excel spreadsheet in, and that Excel spreadsheet that he has designed will tell him that, how much money is really left over after all the bills are taken out. He has put in all the formulas to say, these bills are due on this day, this month. Our 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 paycheck, our income has came in. This is how much has been taken out. This number that's on this Excel spreadsheet should reflect what's in our bank account. The number that's on the Excel spreadsheet should reflect what's in your bank account.
Not the other way around.
Not the other way around. I'm like, so, and that was kind of hard. I was like,
so with that being said, so I was able to identify or break it down to her how you go from being in debt to being at a deficit. So it's certain habits that it just starts to accumulate and starts to pile on. And then next thing you know, you went from having this amount of debt to having a cumulative amount of debt that now is called a deficit. You're at a deficit. So some things have to change. But as you instill those disciplines, you still have to build in times to reward yourself and your family. You can't take it with you. And I don't have the mindset. I don't intend to take it with me. I don't intend to leave too much of it for my kids. I'm going to enjoy it myself. But at the same time, I'm going to be mindful about when I'm going to enjoy it. I'm going to build in times when I hit certain milestones and achieve certain goals, then I'm going to enjoy my money, the fruits of my labor. And it's going to look good too. I'm going to look good. Like, one of my favorite songs is Big Crit. Have you ever rolled clean? I need y'all to play that one time for me. And so during those times when I feel like splurging and, dropping a couple thousand, some stacks, I'm playing Big Crit. Have you ever rolled clean? So that's a little bit about me, but building those rewards. We weren't able to go to Paris just on a whim. No, I was saving up for that for months. And I said no a lot more. I said no a lot.
And I didn't know why he was saying no.
She had no clue. But at the same time, she still appreciated the gift of going to Paris. But that's something I had already had in my forethought and already had intentions of doing. So I was working toward the goal that I had set. And I was also building in the time and I had just paid off one of my credit cards. So that went smoothly. That went perfectly. That went according to plan. So I said, one, it's around her birthday, and two, it's around the time I'm going to pay off this card. So I'm going to treat both of us, but it's going to be for her for
real. And one of the key things too is not only building that time, but he said he made it a goal that once I pay off this, I'm able to do that. But it had to be a goal set forth to do that. So he did. He told me a lot of no. It was like, no.
The family thought I was trying to keep her from him.
He was like, no. I was like,
is he abusing you over there? Are you eating?
What? It was like a no, you can't. I was just
like, I don't want to come to the family cookout.
Yeah, I didn't understand. I was just like, well, and like you said, because the money is blended, it's like, well, we need to go. I need this amount of money to make this trip.
The kids like, I want real pizza. I don't want to make pizza.
Yeah, we did.
We started making pizza.
I was just like,
she's like, I want real pizza. When are we going to Lido's?
So I was like, okay.
And I'm like, nah, I'm working towards something.
Yeah,
so I gotta cut back in certain areas so I can. Something I tell everybody in this household, do what you have to do so you can do what you want to do. So, yeah, I had to instill that so we can go to Paris.
Yeah. I was like, I'm in the house. You ever seen whether the Cat in the Hat when the kids were out the window like, man, we can't do nothing. That was
We could do
it.
something that
I didn't
just
see,
can't cost nothing.
and
You
that's
gotta get
too.
creative.
And I was glad that, I mean, in a way, he kind of like kept it, not kept it away, but made it more of a surprise.
She had no clue.
I had no clue that we were going to go to Paris. No clue. And then, you know, Paris is a very expensive trip. So you have to plan. It's not something that you, oh, we're just going to Cancun. Like,
To
no.
stay for a week in a 5-star hotel.
Yeah, that was something that you really
You
had
don't just up and just do that unless you balling. We're not at that point. And even when we do get to that point, when we become millionaires, I'm still gonna. I already have the discipline. It says who is faithful as much is going to be faithful with. Who is faithful in little is going to be faithful with much. So I already had the mindset instilled. So I already told her when we, you know, roll in the dough and it's not an issue, I'm still going to have this mindset. We got to check in. We can't just lose control and lose sight of what we're doing. So you got to be responsible.
And one thing too is, and then it goes in time in communication and where you are within your relationship. I have a cousin. She's been married for over 30 years, beautiful marriage, and 3 beautiful daughters. Put them all through college, and she said that their limit is $1,000. I was
a
like,
week or a month?
No, she just said $1,000. She didn't specify like in week or month. I just think it's $1,000. So I was like, $1,000
a purchase, period.
Yeah. So she was just like, yeah, you don't. She said if you wanted to treat yourself to a spa day or go buy for her, if she saw a nice purse, if she was out on vacation on like a girls trip or something like that, or whatever the case may be, or you wanted to go to get floor seats, you know, or go to a nice basketball game, football, whatever it is, whatever your self-care item is for yourself, the limit was $1,000 without calling. You can go ahead and spend it. Versus, you know, for us, was saying just communicate. You know, if you're about to go spend $1,000, okay, $1,000 on what? Like, and then those questions. So, you know, everything is gonna look different for everyone. But the key thing here goes back to communication. Communicate, have that open conversation, have that open dialogue, and be able to plan. And then the last tip.
Oh, there was one more. It's not here though.
Uh-huh.
There was one before this. It was after this. Is exercise self-control and discipline. And how do you do that? You got to be real with yourself, and you have to take a moment to do some self-awareness, some self-check-ins, and you know, just be real about what the things that draw your attention, that distract you, that tempt you, and you got to put some safeguards and some boundaries in place and some accountability in place to say, nah, don't do that. Don't, you know, try not to go back down that road or be a repeat offender, you know what I'm saying? Something like that. So, you know, just try to exercise self-control. And one of the best ways of doing that is having a vision that you can always revert back to and say, this is what I'm working towards. This is one of the reasons why I'm gonna stay away from that over there, or that vice, or that thing that is a crutch, or that I rely on to, you know, get through whatever, you know, or delayed gratification. That's what it's about, really. So
there's plenty of times, I would say, real quickly with the self-control, there's plenty of times where I've been in the store and I'm like, I call him like, oh, this is on sale. Can I just, he's like, but why? Like, you act like you don't remember the goal. And it's like, you just have that impulse, and it may not even be an impulse. It's that desire. It's that true desire. I see this, it's this new shiny thing. I just want it. I gotta have it. And then, you know, if that control, that self-control in yourself is like, well, let me call to say, this is what I'm going to be purchasing. And it's not for him just to talk me out of it, but it's just a friendly reminder. If we were working towards a goal, like, hey, you know, this will set us back 3 paychecks. If you go ahead and make this, like, I'm not telling you what to do. He said that. I'm not telling you that you can't buy it, but just know that you go purchase this, then this can set us back maybe a couple months, and is it worth it? I mean, no one's stopping you. You have the decision. The decision is ultimately yours. And that's how it's been,
And then sometimes I will just flat out say no.
No.
I don't even want to hear it. No.
I don't want to hear it. I'm like, oh Lord. And it's just like,
but the last tip is to be flexible, empathetic, compassionate, considerate, and creative. So be flexible. You gotta give and bend and but just what's the word? Accommodating sometimes, or compromise. That's the word I'm really looking for. But you can't take it with you. You can only budget for so much and go for so long until you. It's hard out here, y'all. Everybody lost somebody, during the pandemic, and it's just hard times. You got inflation, you got student loan debt.
I said that starts back pretty soon if they don't do another extension. 2 years of us is 2 years almost us actually not paying on our student loans, and to now that is a bill if you went and forgotten and accumulated a new expense. That's going to be actually something new for you as well.
So be sensitive and empathetic to the other person's needs, and what their outlet is, and how it is that they recharge, and how they let their hair down and relax. So just be a little flexible, empathetic, compassionate, and considerate. And when I say creative, you want to get creative in your financing and how you approach your spouse or your significant other when you talk about these topics, and how you spend your money. So let's say for like a major department store like Nordstrom's or Macy's, you can get some of the same quality or same brands from a retail store like Ross, TJ Maxx, and Marshalls. So you don't have to pay the highest buck, for the same material, same quality, or last season's model. So, or if you have to register, you can quickly go online and try to pull up a coupon.
Yeah, we've done that plenty of times.
Or
use your points. They have so many like Chick-fil-A points.
Yeah, loyalty reward points.
Loyalty reward. Be a part. If you give business on an average to a certain, ask them. Chipotle has that, a lot of them, and then use that. There's times we haven't swiped and we just said, okay, scan your phone and the meal is free. That's a way of really conserving and being creative,
and also being mindful of what season it is in the calendar year. So you got holidays that come up and things go on sale. For example, we was about to get new iPhones, but the gentleman at the kiosk, he told us the iPhone 14 is about to come out. So you guys might as well wait till August or September. If you get one today, it would just be a waste of time. Not a waste, but you'd probably be upset that you got the 13 and the 14 is about to come out in a month and a half, 2 months.
Yeah,
so
you spent the unnecessary money early on. So we're like, okay, now we just have a couple more months to really save towards, that iPhone.
Yeah. And then you got, July 14th, July 4th, Black Friday,
Labor Day, Memorial Day.
Those holidays, that stuff goes on sale.
Yeah.
So I don't know, just kind of be creative in your strategies, and also utilizing those cashback reward points. So we can kind of get back into that later. That goes back to what method of payment are you going to use? We don't use cash.
Yeah, we don't use cash.
We use certain credit cards during certain quarters for the cashback rewards.
Yeah, like for example, we're going to talk about that too. We'll have another show in regards to what credit card are you using, and pick the credit card that fits your lifestyle, whether you as an individual or together as a couple. And two, I was saying I felt a little bad today because a lady asked me for $3, and I'm like, I don't even carry cash. And I'm always the type I offered to just buy her, food or something, exchange for the $3, but she just said, no, it's okay. But yeah, I mean, we don't, use cash. And it's so funny because we have a tendency, like when if we're out, for example, like in the grocery store or standing behind someone in line, we kind of look to see what card they pull out.
Yeah,
And
both of us.
yeah, I'm like, and we like, he pulled out a debit card. We're like,
Yeah.
and it's like all those bells and alarms go out. Like, yo, he pulled out. Like, I'm like, you missing out all, and then you hear the price, like that you just spent 300 in Target. You could have got so much cash back
Yeah.
rewards
So in
with
certain
that.
quarters, you'll
So,
get 5% cash back rewards.
yeah,
And with a
like
certain
just
card, you'll get 6% cash back rewards.
certain cards, yeah.
So
And being able to know how to rotate, not put all items on every single card. So, for example, like our Discover It card, this month
it's
it's
restaurants and
restaurants.
PayPal.
Yeah, and PayPal. We don't really use PayPal, but we do restaurants. So any restaurant purchase, we know we're gonna get a certain percentage back. Was it
5%.
5% back, and hey, that's cash. That I think
Accumulates over time.
accumulates over time, and even and so and when it comes down to the American Express, that's like the hotels and other different things as well. They have Grubhub, Uber. If we use that for Grubhub or Uber, they actually give us money for using, their point system. They actually give money.
They give 4 times the reward points
Yeah.
in certain spending categories.
Yeah. So really
So just get creative,
and really know it.
and not just how you spend, but how you interact with your spouse. So I'm trying to think of a specific example, but no, I'll save that for later. I'm
What
gonna save it for later.
I think a creative way. So I would say during the pandemic, one of the creative ways I wanted to go out. This is a time where everyone was going out to Cancun and everything, and I was just so excited. I'm like, oh, can we go? And he was like, no, we're still in a pandemic. I'm like, it's okay. And I'm just like, I just want to be out. I just wanted to be out. And so the creative way is I purchased these two little canvas from uh, Walmart. We did like a little
Michael's and Walmart.
Michael and Warren. I went and we did like a paint. We did like a paint day at the park. We purchased our food to go. We sat outside. We were a little more innovative in a sense, and more creative in changing up the date night.
Yeah.
You don't have to always go to a restaurant, especially when we
always spend top dollar.
Always spend top dollar too. I was saying to him, we went out now, especially after the pandemic, we went out.
We do a lot more appetizers.
We do a lot more appetizers. But one of the times, if you really take time, if you don't take time to really read your receipt when you go out to restaurants now, they're actually charging a surcharge, as well as some restaurants are doing a liquor and a food charge as well, and on top of that. So really take time to really look at your receipt and identify those things as well. So I mean, that's pretty much it, of just highlighting those points. Is just communicate your intentions, have that budget for your needs and your wants, build in time that you will reward yourself or your family, and be flexible, empathetic, compassionate, and considerate, and creative in the sense of when it comes down to really your finances. Anyone can have a number for themselves. Everyone can have, especially when you deal with your spouse, you all too can have a number, but it's not so much about the number.
It's about having a conversation.
It's about the conversation, because at the end of the day, do I trust you, and do you trust yourself, and are you able to communicate that hey, I'm here, I'm doing X, Y, and Z, and I'm letting you know what are your thoughts and your opinion and just value, really, show the value to that person, and show them grace in those different areas as well.
Yep.
So, I mean, that's really much it for today, guys. We are definitely excited that you all had the opportunity to tune in to Merging Finances. We are here live every Tuesday at 7 p.m. If you have any show topics that you all want us to discuss, definitely leave it down in the chat box.
Or if you and your significant other want to come on the show.
Oh, yes, you and your significant other want to come on the show. Um, I met this really nice lady today in the grocery store. If she's listening today, happy early anniversary. She actually will be married for 20 years. And I suggested for her and her spouse to come on and actually write a pin letter to their when they got married in their 20s and now they're in their 40s. And for them to, actually speak about my what I've learned over the past 20 years, not only being married but financially, So I think that would be pretty cool. So if you want to be featured here as a guest on Merging Finances, definitely send us an email at mergingfinances@gmail.com. If you have any other show topics as well, not only leave them in the chat box in the comments, but also send us email as well. We would love to hear you all's feedback. We are definitely excited. Like I said, we're going to have other future guests that come on. We're going to talk about lending for those in the home buying process. We're also going to talk about credit. We're going to talk about retirement. We're going to talk about investment. We're going to talk about business credit as well. We're going to have just a little bit of almost everything that revolves around finances. So here we are promoting not only a healthy, open communication, but most of all, it's providing those tips and those budgeting tools that you need so that you can continue your journey on building generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
So we thank you all for tuning in. It's been nothing but a pleasure seeing you all once again, and we will see you next time here on Merging Finances.
Have a good one.